What's happening?
Do you see me?
I see you.
I see you too. Yes.
Yes, we see each other.
Awesome.
Great.
Okay.
All
Yes.
right. Let's
Got some
give it a
people
couple minutes
checking
for
in.
people to get in here. Yeah.
Yeah. What's up, people? Today we're talking about power of language and
Oh
words
yeah.
and linguistics and a ton of other stuff. Yes, Wendy, Teeny, thanks. Okay, cool.
Well, I can't pin a comment. You have to pin it.
Oh, how do I pin it? Oh man, I didn't think about that part.
Yeah,
Pin.
you're the boss now.
The balls.
You the
Power
boss. You gotta
of
type it, then you gotta click it.
post. And now pin
You
comment.
gotta click it, and
I
then
did it.
pin that.
Pin.
Bam! We
Yes.
can pin. All right. Well,
Let's get started. So tell me, when did this conscious use of language first become a thing for you?
ooh, that's a good question. I would say deeply, probably about 3 years ago, when I started really 3 or 4 years ago, when I really started my journey and started just like opening up and like going really deep into intention. But I've been in sales my whole life, so like I always subconsciously understood language and could really word things. I used to sell cars, so I could really word things however I wanted to get whatever answer I wanted. But like actually understanding like the depth of it, probably about 4 years ago. And then it's only gotten super deep the past probably year or two. How about you?
I noticed it probably about 6 years ago when I was in weird self-sabotaging habits and kind of noticed how positive thinking really helps. And I started to go into the yogic journey. And one of the first things you learn in yoga is the yamas, kind of the ethics and the morals of yoga. And number one is ahimsa, and ahimsa is nonviolence. And there's the perspective of nonviolence against others, for sure. What I took more consideration into was the violence against like ourselves. And a lot of
Mm,
that starts with our neural thoughts and the thoughts that are going through our mind. And if we're sitting there thinking negative thoughts and like using words to send that kind of energy towards ourselves, it really does affect us. And so that's when I started to say, oh, okay, now I can think positively. And then when I started training in NLP 2 years ago, that's when I really started to see that, oh, words
mm.
are how we're literally reinterpreting our experience, and we're formulating it in a way that puts a structure from the outside into the inside. And we learned there's so many things in NLP that we learn about words and the structure of words and the structure of sentences. And, they teach us grammar in school, but it kind of misses a little bit of the actual intention behind words. So that's when I
Did you
really
know?
started. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Did you know that everybody actually speaks second grade language?
What do you mean by
I
that?
encourage I encourage anybody to look up the work of David Wynn Miller. He's
Mm.
old. He used to be a judge. He's all about like sovereignty, and it's all through language. It's all like he talks about syntax language. Because at the end of the day, your brain's a computer. So like the way you word things, like this is what's really came down to me in downloads and stuff. Like the way you word things, like if your statement doesn't end up being, it's a math equation. Your word's literally a math equation. So if you're like trying to add like 2 + 3 = like 1, like your statement's false, so your brain doesn't even process it. And your brain also doesn't speak negative language. So if you try to affirm yourself negative thoughts, like I want to quit smoking, that's not gonna. You're not. That just goes right over your head. It doesn't do
Yeah.
anything. You have to say, I want to make healthier choices. You have to like positively say that. But going on the David Wynn Miller, he speaks quantum language. Well, obviously we live in a quantum world, and the whole like court systems and the whole like way you sign contracts and everything, it's all false. So like really like in order to be sovereign, or in order to really be self-governed, it's through language and through knowing what to do in the court systems, because the courts themselves, they know about it. And when you know about it, they can't touch you. But since you don't know and you're not educated enough in the language, and so that's why they speak this court language. If you don't know it, then you just sign the paper, go to jail, do whatever you got to do, pay the ticket, but you don't have to. It's all through language. It's amazing.
Whoa. Yeah, because the system shows us a lot of words, and oftentimes if we fail to state our own independence using our language and using our words, we'll listen to that kind of fear-based way of thinking, and they'll use a lot of words and just like with authority, and so we'll bow down to authority. But
Yeah.
when we really tune in to see like what the actual words are in the courtroom or anywhere, really, we can start to see things really differently.
Absolutely. It's even more complex than that. Like, it's beyond just the word, it's the way you put your adjectives, your adverbs, all these things. It's like super complex, and like in order to like most people, that's why I say people speak second grade language because they don't know how to really speak the truth. Like, yeah, we understand each other, but the language actually isn't correct. And the whole English language is really deceptive, actually, and extremely like demonic and like satanic in many forms. Like, you wake up and you say like good morning. Like, well, morning's what you do when somebody dies. Like, you say hello. Like, all these different things that like we say in English. That English is like, it's just a dead language. It's dead. Like, there's no like, if you speak Spanish, Portuguese, if you whatever you speak, there's like the word has the water has like a feminine or a masculine. Like, everything has like an essence to it, a spirit. English doesn't do that. It's just dead. There's like no emotions. That's why like romantic language like Spanish or like all these other languages is like very like French. It's like flows and it's very understanding and it's deep. And that's why a lot of those have relationships to each other as far as like their base and their core. But the English is like just dead. It's like there's no. It's just it makes everything material. It makes everything just a thing. There's no like spirit behind anything.
Okay, so now knowing this, that English language could be dead and the actual spellings are spells enchanting us a certain way of thinking, and television, right? Using the vision to get into our minds and to train our minds a certain way. Okay, well, what do I do? Because all I freaking know is English. I know a few words of Spanish. I know non-linear language as well. I know language outside of words. And so NLP.
That's a good one.
Yeah, oh, for sure. It's very little language is actually a lot more, and that's what NLP is really showing me, is that it's so much more than just the words. And we can use the words to really send ourselves outside of different scenarios. And so using English is how because I don't know any other language, how I can get outside of those spells, because I can see the grammatical text that's within the structure of the sentence and put myself outside of it. For example, if somebody says, I am depressed, or I have anxiety, and we're attaching these identities towards ourselves just using that sentence, like that itself is a fallacy, and that itself is an opportunity for change. Because if we're saying, I am depressed,
on that thought, when you're listening to people, words are so important. Like, this is a computer, and when somebody says, I am depressed, your brain doesn't know if you said it or they said it. It just registers, I am depressed. This is why being around shitty people, no one's shitty, but like really depressed, I'm sorry if we're shitty, but like really depressive and like heavy people, like, is dangerous if you don't know how to really protect yourself. People say like, oh, I'm protected. Like, it's deeper than that. Like, you don't know shit, man. Like, it's really like the words they're using and the vibration and the energy behind the words is working on this bad boy unconsciously. You don't know. So unless you know that and you know how to really separate, like when somebody says some stupid stuff like, I'm depressed or I hate this, like, I create a mirror. I defend myself. Like, that's your shit. Like, I'm awesome. So you can hate that and you can be depressed, but like, I'm going to continue to be awesome. And I'll help you if you want, but like, you really got to understand, like, that's why you got to create borders and separation between people who aren't serving you, because hanging out with that friend who's just like in a negative space, like, that really has an effect on you deeper than you know. Like, super deep. Like, when they're using all these because they use these strong words and they use I this, and your brain's just hearing like, oh, well, I guess I'm depressed now. Oh, I guess I'm this. I guess I'm this. Or I guess like I'm broke, I have no money. Like you keep hearing all these things and they're like affirmations outside of you, but they still have power unless you know how to defend yourself. It's
Yeah,
wild.
and coming from that state of awareness and knowledge and understanding the other person's model of the world, but then being that boundary badass that's not in that
Yeah.
model of the world. Like, I don't care how empathetic you are, you have the power to just sit in your own model of the world and really hold your ground and your foundation. Or else if you're
Yes.
hanging around with a ton of toxic people, you're going to start to think that depression is a possibility. And in my world, it's not, because I am depressed is an identity statement. And that's not even possible because we're so much beyond words. We're not even able to put ourselves, our beautiful, infinite beings, in this word. But if you hang around
That's
people
it.
long enough, they might convince you, and you might convince yourself that that's possible. And
Yep.
so really noting exactly who you're hanging around and noticing the words they're using. And, how can we be the leaders of giving people the opportunity to see things differently?
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's a self-study, man. You got to study. I could
Mm-hmm.
teach you a whole bunch of stuff, but you have to want to learn. You have to want to know, what am I saying? What are these words meaning? What am I doing with my life? Like, you got to want to do that. And just like words, like everything's water. Shout out to Jilly, by the way. I know
Julie.
she was on here. Let me spit something for her real quick. So we're water. We're electrical beings, right? So why do you think everything, our money is currency? It's current. Why does our money go to the bank? What does a water do when it gets to the bank? It stops. Everything is like, I'm telling you, super strategic, super strategic, and like once you start really paying attention to all these other, but you have to study yourself, and then that opens up, like unlocks the new levels in your mind to like understand that, and like, I'm trying to put into words what's like not words.
Cosmic Warrior Goddess says, I've recently been catching myself with chosen language. What do you mean by chosen language?
Yeah,
Like
talk to me about that.
words that you choose? Tell us more about that, because that seems really interesting. And that's what the point, I guess, of this discussion is to bring up that we have the ability to choose language. And I'll go outside of grammar. I'll say things like, when are you not doing what you aren't thinking that you haven't been? And it's going like into all these negative double negatives, but it's putting opportunities outside of the problem. So I am depressed. Okay. When aren't you not depressed? And it takes you outside of the depression into the not depression. And then here's the not depression. And when aren't you not depressed? Okay, so here's the not depression. When am I not depressed? NLP things just to get outside of what our circle of reality is in the moment. Because if you are depressed, prove it to yourself that you aren't depressed just by asking yourself, when am I not depressed?
That reminds me of I don't know if it was a book or a speech that Eckhart Tolle Tolle had. It was he was talking about his neighbor came over and she was like crying ecstatic because she lost like the ring that her grandmother gave her like many years ago, and this is like an older lady, so her grandma's passed away. And she goes, I don't know what I'm gonna do. She's just having like this huge event about like she lost the ring her grandma gave her. So he sits down and he goes like, okay, like how much more time do you feel that you need before it would have been okay for you to part with that ring? And like it just clicks. Like she's like, oh shit. Like in reality, like how much more time did you need? Like how much like so these states that we get in, like it's really how long do you want to be there? It's okay to feel a little depressed, a little anger, a little this, but like release it, acknowledge it, release it, and like let life flow through you.
Yeah, and that question right there, it assumes that there is an end. It assumes that there will be a time where this will stop bothering you. And that itself is one of the biggest powers of language. When is this not going to be a problem anymore? Like,
Yes.
declare that there is an ending time. And Cosmic Warrior Goddess, I like that name. She said, I tend to generalize, for example, I always or I never. So in NLP, we call that a universal quantifier. It's everybody thinks things this way, or nobody ever does that. And it's these giant generalizations that can really trap us in a stuck way of thinking. If we think that the world is this linear, everybody, nobody, always, never, these huge generalizations,
Wrong
we
words,
tend to
man.
get, it's a trance. Like everything is a trance. We're always in some form of hypnosis, whether or not we realize it. So we're using this as an opportunity of words to take ourselves out of our current hypnosis.
But I say, like, choose your magic wisely, man. Like, there's some dark magic out there. So, like, some of these trances are fun and magical and, like, unicorns and stuff. So, like, that's good magic to be in. But, like, everything you're doing, from what you're thinking when you're eating, when you're drinking. Oh, language. Oh, this came in the ceremony, actually, when I was in L.A. Jeremy says when he was about to drink water after ceremony, he goes and he's, like, grabbing his water, and he's like, man, I'm so thirsty. And I was like, stop. Don't say that. And he's like, what? I was like, when you're drinking your water, like, you're commanding your water, you're putting intention into your water that I am so thirsty. So, like, you're going to be starved from this water. You got to really think about it. Like, no, I'm hydrated. Like, speak what you want, not what you're experiencing or what what you don't want. Really speak what you want. And when you start doing that, like, magic happens. Like, everything just happens for you.
Yeah, when you have a kid and you give them a glass of milk and you say, don't spill the milk, like, what are we putting into their reality? It's spilled milk.
Exactly.
We're putting the picture of spilled milk in their reality. So it's like, hold tightly or something like that. That's putting what we want is, not what we don't want.
Exactly. Thank you. That's so powerful. So many people do that, especially with kids, and I'm just sitting there like, man, you're killing me. Like, it's like they're telling what they don't want to do. So, like, this is all, your third eye is your visualization, what you're creating, like, what you're seeing. So, like, you could paint pictures, worlds with art, with your words. And, like, if you're falling in love with somebody, like, the way you speak and the pictures that you're drawing for them to see, like, wow, I could see myself with that person. That's really what dating is. Like, how much can you really paint that picture for them? Like, hey, this is what it's like to be like me, with me, And they're going to be like, wow, that's a nice picture. I want to step into that world. Like, I tell people, welcome to David's world.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to bring you into my world. Like, I live in a pretty cool world. Like, I think so, at least. But, like,
me too. It's all joy.
Your words are painting. It's literally art. Words are a form of art. And when you use these, like, words correctly, you could paint beautiful things and you can intend things. Like, you could lead that child, because children are so connected that when you speak words, they paint it right away. They paint that vibration. And then they do it. And it's just like, it's already, they're seeing it. So when you're painting that, like, outcome that you don't want, like, you painted it, and now it's like, oh, shit, they're a child. They're like, oh, they're like just led towards that, because that's what's painted. They didn't paint, the beautiful gate with, like, the light. Like, go that way. Which brings up one more point. Beyond the words, like, the words are, like, this much of importance. It's the energy behind it, because energy is truth. But the energy behind the words is everything. And, like, some people get this right away, and a lot of people struggle with, like, what do you mean the energy? Like, when they say stuff or when they're describing stuff, or all of a sudden, ask somebody about somebody they don't like. And you're going to see what I mean. They're going to be having a regular conversation, their voice is like this, and all of a sudden they talk about their aunt that's terrible, and they're like, oh, yeah, she did this. And, like, all of a sudden, like, you hear that blockage. You hear that emotion, like, it just comes out. Like, or they talk about somebody they like. They're like, oh, yeah, like, she's awesome, man. I like her. It's all. So, aside from that is how you use the energy behind your words when you're talking to somebody. What do you want from them? When you're asking somebody for a favor, you kind of like, hey, how are you, The energy behind the words has just as much tone, exactly, tone and vibration. The energy and the tone and the vibration has sometimes more effect than the words themselves, It's all about how you deliver. It's a delivery. It's like how you, like, wrap the package. Here you go.
And even if we think that we're saying, words and nobody will know what we really mean, it's going to be that energy. It's going to be that the facial changes. Like, perception is projection. So no matter what, we can't help but, like, project what we're internalizing. And if we're, oh, how are you today? Fine. It's those subtle nuances. And you'll see, like, when you're talking about someone you like, there tends to be just, like, this glistening of the eyes, or the lines on the lips will puff up a little bit, and you'll see these subtle changes in the demeanor of someone. And the more you
100%.
pay attention to it, you'll see where they're looking. You'll see their eyeballs go to a certain place. And you'll see their smile come in, or they'll get little wrinkles on the sides of their eyes. It's so much more than just the words. It's the power and everything underneath it. So we can check ourselves and make sure that, yeah, we're coming from truth, because no matter what, the truth is going to come out in our body and in our energy that we're sending outside of the sentence.
Yeah, one of the biggest things that I learned in the jungle when I learned how to sing by this magical plant down there, 'cause I couldn't always sing, let me tell you, was really like to open up your, like, in the morning, sing in the morning. Singing takes you beyond, like the birds. But like, sorry, I like that song. But when you really like yell, like it's good to yell in the morning, like really is just like why do lions roar? Like this all clears, like you're just sitting, you're just laying, this clears the vibration, clears the channel, because the clearer your channel is, the more clear your vibration is going to come out. So even though I have a family member personally that her vibration doesn't always come out how she means it, but it comes out aggressive. And like, I've talked to her and she doesn't really mean it that way. It just comes out that way because she has so much tension, right? So like, when you clear those channels, when you like work through that, whether that's through doing yoga or yelling or like really clearing, now whatever you're thinking, whatever you want to express is going to be clear. When I'm channeling, when I'm singing in ceremony, I'm singing these beautiful eagles behind me, like, it's literally the clearer I could get, the higher I get. That's why I always tell people I get high as shit, because once I get high, like my channels open up, and then like it just comes down and it's vibrating all the way up through me. It's just vibrating through my channels. And if I have to purge or something, you'll notice my vibration change a little bit, because it's something in the channel has to clear. And then I go to the bathroom, I come back, and all of a sudden, like, it's just a clear vibration through it. So like clearing your channels allows you to really connect more. And like, when my channels are clear and I'm singing, like, I just go into the cosmos. But like, when it's like I'm processing something, it's like I'm here. It's like I want to sing more beautifully, I want to sing more vibrational, but there's like something stuck there. So like, singing, practicing some type of vocal practice, whether it's in the shower, like anything, like use your voice, like yell, like really express, like to help clear your channel. It's good to hear yourself,
Yeah.
Your vibration will change.
I completely agree. And, when people say I'm not a good singer, or my whole childhood, I was screaming at the top of my lungs, like out of temper tantrums, because I couldn't express through words what I meant. And then when I was 18 and I got thyroid cancer, my vocal cords were shredded. So for 2 years, my voice was soft. It was a whisper. I couldn't really laugh. And but that was like my big realization of how much I was blocked within this energy channel. And when I learned to play guitar and I learned how to start to sing and to open up that channel, and now I'm a speaker, and words are my gift and speaking is my gift, and that's what I'm bringing into the world. And it's this whole like coming from and now being in this space, that saying what's important to us and saying what's on our mind, and then actually speaking and singing and opening this system has been so beneficial, because it is that tension that a lot of people carry in, and maybe it's just because they're not speaking their truth and they're not letting things out. And this is right here, our voice is our opportunity to do so in many different ways.
Yeah, like so many people's vibrations is clogged. Like you can tell everybody about how, like I told everybody, like after sharing, like I just observe everybody. Like it's beyond just looking at you. I'm looking at your energy. I'm listening your vibration. I'm feeling what you're feeling. I'm seeing what's going on with Aubrey. Like I'm like, what's going on? What's she going through? Like, and somebody's tone and the way they express themselves is going to tell you so much. Like, so much about what they're going. Once you really learn how to read, it literally becomes like reading a book. Like, it just has clear words. Like, once you learn how to read energy, it's just like, oh, wow, like, that's where you're at. And, like, sometimes you can't even put it into words. You're just like, well, no, I get it, but, like, I don't know how to tell you that I get it, but trust me, I get it. I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And you can see where you're coming from. And I love your singing. And when you're getting into that flow state, it's as if your conscious mind isn't stopping you, right? You're not giving yourself that filter of like, I don't know if this is the right time, or like if I'm being good enough, because none of that fucking matters. You're in a state of flow and just letting things move through you. And it sounds freaking amazing, because you're
Yeah.
in that state and your energy is coming from that state of non-doubt, of just being in confidence and essence and flow.
Mm. Yes. So when I first was learning how to sing and channel, it was like that's the biggest step for like almost everybody, typically, is letting go.
Hmm.
You know, you gotta learn the words of the songs first, or eventually you just channel. But when you're first learning, you're learning, you're reading these different Icaros. But the biggest thing is like you're trying to think and trying to make your voice a certain way, or like you're trying, right? And the thing is, like, the biggest secret is to let go and just do it. Like, once I just decide I'm gonna sing, I put my intention, I connect, and I just connect to that energy, and I just let it flow. Man, there's some powerful music that comes out. But like, if I'm trying, or if I start thinking, like, what am I gonna say next? That's when you'll hear me like skip a beat, or like I'll stop singing for a second, like, or like kind of choke up for like a quick second, and then I have to like just reconnect and let go. Because the channel is not about like me thinking and like making this thing. It's about just me letting go and letting whatever comes out comes out. And the moment I think, and the moment I'm like, what should I sing next, or what should I do? That boom, I disrupted that channel. There's like a little
Yeah.
step, and then I have like a hiccup, or I stop singing. I'm just like sometimes, and when I was in the jungle, like first, like when I was first beginning, I'll be singing and literally like I'll be singing powerfully and loud, and out of nowhere, I just stopped. Dead silence. I just lost where I was because I was so in the trance, and then like I had a thought that came in. It was actually like an energy that came in and like tried to fuck with me, and then boom, I just lost where I was, and then I don't even know what song I was singing, like because I let go. I was just gone. Like I was just, and then like I came back and I was like, oh shit, like what was I singing? What like, and then like they'll tell me
Yeah.
like, hey, you're here. I was like, oh, all right, and I reconnect and I go, but it's wild. Like letting go of the mind is it.
I
That's life.
completely agree with that. And I experience very similar things when I'm speaking. And if I'm doing, when I did my 8-hour day of speaking, it's like there are those moments where you're not thinking thoughts. Your body, you're embodying what you're pushing
Mm.
outward and what you're projecting and, communicating to other people, that it's, and I didn't understand it until I started tapping into it. And for me, I felt it deep in like my sacral area, my womb area. That's when I started to feel flow. That's when I could just sit and talk and not even realize the words that were coming out because I wasn't thinking about it. My body, my mind, everything understood it. My being understood what I was trying to put forth, and things just started to flow. And people all stop, or people will say, "What did you just say?" I'll be like, I really don't know exactly what I said because I was outside of the words. I was just in the moment and in the essence of the communication. So
Yeah,
wild.
so that brings up something really important I want to say.
Yes.
I was kind of touching base on the English language. Um, y'all really don't know what the words mean. Like I say what,
Mm,
right? And to you, your brain processes what as like as what? You know what is, right? So like, but the vibration of what, the what, like don't process it as a word, just listen to the vibration what. That means something else. And you don't know what that means unless you understand vibration.
what does it
So like
mean?
I don't know, man. Look, when I was learning, no, but seriously, that's something that's been coming down in ceremony. Like the language, like beyond the words and beyond like kind of what I was saying earlier, is really what's language is vibration. I'm using vibrations. So like you're taught that what means this and that big means this and that everything means something, right? It's just like this very logical, like this means this means this. It's not about what's the vibration behind it. That's why people don't get clear messages. Like beyond the words, like it's hard to explain to somebody who can't go beyond and become the observer. Beyond the words, the reason why messages get like kind of lost when people talk is because their vibration isn't clear. The way they talk is like just not messed up, but like it's just not a clear like they have blockages in their vocals. They have like that's why there's a lot of confusion between them and and it transfers to their whole life. And whether they until they sit down and realize like shit, like nobody really hears me or like understands me. It's like, well, you're emitting something that's not clear. Like your vibration that you're broadcasting is not clear. Whether that's the word choices, the vibrations you're using with that, or whatever conjunction of the matrix of your language that you're using.